Well, hello again. Good morning. Crystal and I are super excited to be here today. We actually attended for the first time last year, and we were the very last presentation, I think. And so we're like jazzed to be the first one. So really loved hearing all the introductions as well. I think we all can resonate with each other. But Crystal and I are here to talk about how MGM Resorts uses mobile-friendly communications to reach our frontline team members and remote team members. So without further ado, I will kick things off. I know we briefly introduced ourselves, but more formally, again, my name is Lauren. I am the Executive Director of Internal Communications for MGM Resorts. I've worked for the company for, this will be my 13th year. In the majority of that time, about 7-ish, 8 years, has been in internal communications. So that's really my bread and butter. I actually started in operations and I went to school for hospitality and hospitality management. So MGM Resorts is my home. And also too, outside of communications, I'm actually a certified change practitioner. So everyone that mentioned change management communications is a significant part of my role. So would love to talk to anyone about that. And now I will hand it over to the yin to my yang, Ms. Crystal McNeil, to take us away.
Morning again, everyone. I have been in the communications field for over 20 years. I know I only look 16, but it's true. I started out in TV and radio news and then transitioned into public relations. So I've worked in the government sector, nonprofits, and for the last decade in hospitality. I joined MGM in 2017, and now I currently oversee our communications for philanthropy, DE&I, and environmental sustainability. And I also see oversee internal brand. I do want to give a couple of shout outs to the people in the room that I have connections to. So I have AAA insurance. My home was built by Lennar.
Yeah, mine too.
And my butt is at TJ Maxx or Home Goods every other weekend. So.
That's a good point. Yeah. That was funny.
So how many of you are familiar with MGM Resorts or have been to one of our properties?
Yeah, all right.
Love that. So we are a publicly traded company. Our president and CEO is Bill Hornbuckle. And our roots actually started back in the early 1970s when a gentleman by the name of Kurt Kerkorian built the first MGM Grand in the desert. He was the original owner of MGM Film Company. So that is why MGM Grand has the look and feel of The Wizard of Oz, in case you didn't know that little fun fact. So since then, we've grown pretty substantially. We currently have over 31 global hotel or other types of destinations, with the majority of them being in Las Vegas. So if you've been on the Strip, you may know that we own Bellagio, Aria, Vdara, the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas, Park MGM, Mandalay Bay, Luxor, the W, MGM Grand and Signature, what did I forget?
Excalibur.
New York, and Excalibur. Regionally, we have properties in Mississippi, Michigan, Ohio, New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. And then internationally, we have MGM China, which is in Macau. We're also part owner of the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas as well. So if you come to one of our destinations, you're going to experience all types of things. Entertainment, from sporting events, comedy shows, Cirque du Soleil. We have the beautiful fountains at Bellagio, the beautiful garden conservatory. We even have a shark reef at Mandalay Bay. One of the things that people don't realize about our company is we have a great foundation that is fully funded by employee giving. And we're proud to say we have given over $100 million to over 1,500 nonprofits in the United States. We have over 6,500 employees. Most of them are based in Nevada, and we are the largest employer in the state of Nevada. So as Lauren mentioned, we're going to talk to you about two of our communications tools. I'm going to touch base with you guys a little bit about our employee app, Leo, and then Lauren's going to talk about our texting initiatives. So I'm going to start with Leo, take you back on a journey of Leo. So our employee app is named Leo, and it was born around 2018. I started at the company in 2017, as I mentioned, and one of the biggest conversations we were having at that time is the challenge of reaching our frontline employees. And I know several of you in the room have touched on that as well, about wanting to know more about how do you connect with those deskless folks. So for us in the hospitality business, that's our front desk, our housekeepers, our security officers, the people that run our food and beverage outlets. At MGM, with our 65,000 employees, only 1/3 of them have a company email. So there's a big gap there in terms of trying to get that information to trickle down. So at that point in time, there were lots of employee apps out there. We were having lots of conversations with companies that had that, what the best practices were. We met with a ton of vendors. We did an RFP, and then we did a proof of concept with First Up, tested out the app at Mandalay Bay and our corporate entities, and it worked well, and we've been on contract with them ever since. So we launched Leo initially at our Las Vegas properties, then finally at our regionals in the last 6.5 years or so. It's named Leo. You probably haven't figured that out, that it's a lion, like our company logo. And we also kind of informally say that Leo stands for linking employees online. So that's just easy for us to remember. Lauren's going to walk around a little bit and show you guys what the app looks like. But it's mobile-based. Employees also have the option to access it on a desktop through Okta. And we're about 50%, so half of our employees use it as a mobile, half use it on the desktop. It is voluntary. It is not, you know, for managers, we recommend that they use it but it's voluntary for our frontline employees because you're putting it on your own personal device and you can download it from any app store. We do have an employee portal called My MGM that is managed by our HR teams. And we kind of work in partnership because the portal really is pure HR, where you look for your base pay stub, how you connect to Workday, all that kind of stuff. And so we do promote driving people to My MGM and then vice versa. So a little bit about why do we have this extra, you know, communication channel. And the main reason why we thought it would be a good idea while employees had access to the portal is that Leo offers you the opportunity to participate. So user-generated content is a big piece of Leo for us. We invite our employees to post content within the parameters of it being around company culture, recognition, all of those positive types of things. So they can go on, they can upload photos, photo galleries, post content. It does sit in a queue and then it's approved by somebody on our administrative team. And we usually push it through within an hour or so, even though we give ourselves like a 24-hour window. Happy to say that we have never had any shenanigans. Our employees are very respectful of the process. And so that's a great way to, again, to celebrate their opportunity to participate and talk about what is a great thing to work for MGM. In terms of content, we divide it up into channels. So we have about 5 main channels on the platform, and property news is the one that most of our employees kind of go to because it's specific to where you work. So if you work at Park MGM, you're going to see information about your EDR menu, what's happening at your property specifically. And then we have the managers channels, and that's really key because our managers pretty much rely on email, but we're trying to constantly remind them that Leo is also a good opportunity for them to have things like in their palm, right? Instead of having to go digging through your email for information. We also have manager channels because, thanks to our super conservative legal team, there's specific information that we cannot post to all employees because, as I mentioned, you're going to have Leo on your own personal device. And if you're an hourly employee and you consume that information when you're off the clock, you could potentially turn around and say, I need you to pay me because I read about X, Y, and Z while I was off the clock. So we have like a list of guidelines from our legal team that says this is what you can post on the company-wide channels or the property channels. Otherwise, we post it on the manager channel, so it's only visible to those who are salary. Company-wide news is just like it sounds. It's things that are initiatives across the enterprise. Our CEO and President Bill Hornbuckle frequently does videos, which is some of our most popular content, and we post that on the company-wide news channel. Of course, we have a channel that talks about how to use Leo and some tips and trips there. And then deals and offers, of course, lots of our employees like to go there and find out the types of discounts we get as benefits. So where are we now? It's been about 6.5 years, and actually our stats look pretty decent. So out of those 65,000 plus employees that have access to the platform, again, it's voluntary, we have a 64% adoption rate, which is pretty good. First Up, I think, gave us an initial target of like 60%. So we're actually in a really good place there. So those are the people that have actually gone down and downloaded it. When it comes to activity, we're at 43%. And activity is defined as someone going onto the app at least once a month to view content or post content. And so again, we're feeling like we're in a really good place, but we decided to take a step back And this would be my advice to you. If you currently have an employee app and you've had it for a while, don't become complacent. Figure out what you can do to revitalize it. And that's exactly what we're doing now. So in 2025, right here and now, we are in the midst of our revitalization campaign to kind of bring back that excitement around it now that it's been launched to all of our properties. So we set a few goals here. We want to increase that engagement by 20%, so take that 43% up, 20%. And then the managers, I'm sad to say, aren't as engaged as we would like them to be. So we're actually only currently at 10% in terms of managers who have actually adopted Leo. So we want to take that up to 50%. And so when we started talking about how do we want to talk about around this re-engagement, how do we want to talk about why this is such a big deal still, even though we launched it in 2018? And it's because we want to remind our employees that this literally is the only tool out of all the tools we have that's two-way communication. It's the only place where our employees actually have a voice and can participate. So in terms of the key messages around that, we actually built it around our service proposition, which is show for MGM. The S stands for smile and greet. The H stands for hear their story, meaning our guests. O means own the experience, and W means wow our guests. So we thought, why don't we borrow from that and focus on the H, which is hear their story. So our key messages around this revitalization is we want to hear your story. So here are a couple of the tactics that we have around the revitalization plan. The first thing is to revitalize our advisory council. We had one initially when we did the launch 6.5 years ago, kind of fell off. And so now Kim is responsible for kind of getting some of our super users together. We're going to have monthly meetings for them to hear their ideas and share best practices. We also have the opportunity to tap into our employees in our back of house areas. So that's where they're coming in to work, clocking in, going to the employee dining room. And so Lisa oversees that space. We have lots of signage back there. So we're doing a really beautiful campaign in terms of collateral and artwork, talking about the benefits of being a part of the Leo community. We're also putting together a video that we'll show in the back of house areas, and we're going to send via email. We're going to have some tools for those managers to remind them, again, the benefits through resource guides and fact sheets. And then we're going to have a little fun with it. Leo is a great platform to do contests, online contests, where they can submit questions or answer questions, trivia, that type of thing. And we're going to build the prizes around tech. So we're going to give away wireless speakers and headphones and selfie sticks and all that kind of stuff. We're also going to leverage our other communication channels. So we'll promote this revitalization campaign through My MGM. And then we're also going to have the opportunity to remind our incoming employees at new hire orientation that Leo is a great tool. A lot of our team members in HR will take photos at the new hire class and they'll post them on Leo, and that encourages those new employees to join the platform. So we're in the midst of it right now. We kicked it off in January. Kim will start her committee meetings in a couple of weeks. And then our target for this revitalization is March 24th. So say a prayer for us. And if you have any ideas around your employee apps, we'd love to hear them later. So I'll now hand it over to Lauren, and she's going to talk about our other tool.
Thank you so much, Crystal. Yeah, we love Leo. Leo is near and dear to us. And I know I was walking around the room, but if at any point you want to see more about it, you can come over to our table and we all have it on our phones. All right, so I'm going to talk about another mobile-friendly communication channel. And I totally resonate with what Preston was saying. Like, yes, we're talking about technology, but we also have the grassroots, you know, like human-to-human contact. But we were really excited about this because, like Crystal mentioned, Leo was the first way that we really got in front of employees and on, you know, their devices, which we all understand. We're always looking at our phones. So about 2 years ago, we were approached by a vendor called Titan HST. And they said, hey, CorpCom, would you like to use our platform for broadcast text messages? And they were actually already talking to our global security team because our global security team was looking for a new vendor for crisis management and emergency notifications. And that's actually, if any of you are familiar with Titan HST, that's their bread and butter. So they were working on that aspect, and they came over and said, hey, do you want to build a special platform for internal employee communications? And so we said, yeah. And then it actually took probably about 6 to 9 months to actually develop it before we could launch it. And one of the key aspects that we were really excited about the Titan system is that it talks to two very important systems. The first being Workday, which is our human capital management system. So all the employee data, literally everything about employees, it can talk to that. It can also talk to our timekeeping systems. So UKG. As Crystal mentioned, compensability is something that we are always very hyper aware of. We love our legal team. We like not to get sued or incur a lot of money. And so the feature of being able to talk to the timekeeping systems and say if an hourly employee is currently clocked in or clocked out, and then to send a text message to them only if they are clocked in, we thought was just revolutionary for us. So we loved those two features. And so that initial couple months of setting things up was a lot of testing that out, going through the employee data and saying, okay, what do we want to import into the Titan system for texting that will help us segment our audiences or know who we're actually reaching? I think all of us as communicators understand that we want to send the right messages to the right people at the right time. So it was really great to truly have just all the data at our disposal. So we set it up for a while and then we socialized it. I heard a lot of people in the room say, you know, as the communications team, you're just bombarded with requests of, hey, send a message out for this. Hey, you know, do a campaign about that. And we live that too. And so with this, as a brand new communications channel that we owned, we said, we want to be very cautious in our approach. This is new to employees. Texting is not new. I think it's probably been around for 20 years, but in a corporate communication sense, it was a big deal. So we didn't want to like, you know, ruin things right out of the gate. So we socialized it. And the key points that we wanted to address before we started texting people, I listed a couple of them here. So first being all of our employees were automatically opted in to receive text messages. And we went back and forth on this of saying, well, do we want to go out and say, hey, if you want to get a text message, opt in? Or do we, you know, just go, hey, I don't really care if you want to get a text message. We're going to text it to you at first, and then you can opt out. And we landed with the opt-in. And this is because, again, we could import that employee data from Workday. So as long as an employee had a cell phone number listed in Workday, we received their data and we could have the ability to text them. So that was actually one of the things in our communications campaign leading up to when we actually sent our first text. We told employees, hey, we're going to be doing this thing. If you want to get a text message from us, again, triple check that you have a cell phone number listed in Workday, because we found and we continue to find people are like, hey, I didn't get your text message. And then we look and it's a landline or it's a cell phone from 1996 that doesn't receive text messages. So that was one thing. So again, automatically opted in. We took that risk of, you know, I'd rather have 65,000 people get a text message than none, and then just choose to opt out. And with that, at any point, employees can opt out and opt in. This is not a mandatory thing. This is a value add we want for employees to see. So, you know, maybe you're a manager and you're taking 2 weeks off and you're like, you know what, I want to disconnect from work. I'm going to opt out of text messages so my phone doesn't, you know, receive them while I'm off, and I'll opt back in. So that's something that in the actual text message thread that you receive from us, you can just say stop or you can say start. You can also reach out to any of us in Corp Comms and we can opt you back in. So we wanted that flexibility for employees because, again, we didn't want this to seem like we were just forcing them against their will to get corporate communication messages from MGM. We wanted them to see this as a benefit. And then, as I mentioned, since we do have that interface between the systems, we were able to be very specific with our messages. So if we want to send a text message company-wide to literally 65,000 people in properties and states and corporate, we can do that. Or we can go as small as we want to send a text message to the Prime Steakhouse employees at Bellagio. So it's really great. Again, as communicators, we really love having that functionality because some of our other channels were restricted, like emails. Okay, again, we can get a little bit specific, but not really. Some of our internet platforms, again, you can maybe go by management level, but you can't segment by location. So we loved having that. And as I mentioned too, another thing I'll address is use cases and what we actually send text messages about. This, again, we were very, very clear with our stakeholders that, you know, this was brand new and we didn't want to send out messages that we didn't think employees would actually appreciate. So we narrowed down based on just a lot of feedback, our own experience, you know, and our other communication channels of what employees really appreciate. So one of those topics being traffic and transportation. If you've ever been to Las Vegas, where we are headquartered and where the majority of our employees are, Las Vegas Boulevard, the Strip, is basically the central artery that feeds all of the resorts, and we own the majority of them. So our employees are coming from all over the valley to the Strip, and there's pretty much like 2 highways that come to the Strip. So if there's any kind of traffic impact, it's going to impact your commute to work. And we found employees, that was really a big deal for them of, hey, when I'm coming and going, I want to know if there's, this road is closed down, or, the president likes to come to town a lot, and so they close the entire Strip, and it impacts their day to day. So that was one of the topic areas that we said, okay, we're going to target that for messages. Another being weather, national disasters, updates related to that. So as Crystal mentioned, we have properties and employees that reside in other states where the weather's just not really, really hot all the time. They actually get blizzards, they get hurricanes. So that was already a topic that we had used with those properties in our other channels. And we thought that would, again, be very impactful of if an employee needs to know, hey, the hurricane's approaching, this is our, don't come to work, or please be mindful of, whatever it may be. And then the last one, and this one is something that is near and dear to me, is breaking company news. So we heard from employees constantly that we never told them stuff. I'm sure a lot of you can, I see a lot of heads. Or that, hey, we heard about, we bought this, other property. I read about it on X, or I heard it in the news. Why didn't you tell me directly? I'm your employee. And then, of course, us as communication professionals go, oh, no, I had a very detailed communications plan. And if you actually look at the timestamp, I sent you an email before it hit the news. But no, our employees weren't, the majority of our frontline employees, that's not how they received their company information. They would be on their phones looking at the news. And so that was another one that, again, really I was very passionate about, was I want people to directly get whatever we want them to know about the company, and make them feel like they heard it first from us. So that was kind of how we, kind of a big picture of our texting platform. And so funny enough, Crystal and I mentioned we were at this conference last year, and at the conference, we sent our very first text message. It was only Crystal and I who were here. And so Kim was actually back in Las Vegas and was, sending it. And I was like, oh my gosh, how'd it go? And then I got it on my phone while I was sitting in the room, and I was like, oh my gosh, I got a text message. So I thought it was only appropriate to bring you all through the MGM Resorts 2024 Texting Wrapped. So a little summary of what we've learned over the years, or over the year, sorry, almost exactly a year to the date. And yes, if you're wondering, I totally copyrighted Spotify. If you get your, at the end of the year, Spotify Wrapped. So I own no intellectual property or creative assets, but I thought it was a fun way to just kind of recap some things. So in the full year, so from January 31st until December 31st, we sent just under 2 million text messages. Yeah, I know, it's kind of cool. And that was actually a really big deal for us, because going into this, we knew contractually we had a 2.5 million text allotment. So we paid to have 2.5 text messages. And again, this was the very first time we'd ever done this. So we honestly didn't know, is that going to be an easy number to reach, or is it going to be a hard number to reach? We didn't want leadership yelling at us being like, oh my God, Lauren, we just spent all this money and you sent 2 text messages, or, oh my God, Lauren, we spent all this money and then you cost me even more money. You went over your allotment. So we really honestly were watching it, monitoring it, but we didn't know. So we were very proud that we ended that full year, that first year, almost right on target. So and also, before you go oh my God, Lauren, you hit send, 2 million text messages. No, actually how that's counted is, if you didn't know, one text message is theoretically 140 characters. And that's, or at least that's what Titan defines it in our contract. So for example, let's say we send a message and it ends up being 280 characters, and we send it to 100 employees. 2 times 100 would be 200 text messages. So that's kind of gives you a rough estimate of, if we have a company-wide message, which we sent quite a few for that, or all of Las Vegas, you're looking at 20,000 employees maybe, times the number of characters. So we did send a lot of text messages, but I didn't want you to think all I was doing was hit and send on text messages. Our texting personality would be defined as the navigator. So true enough, over 60% of all the text messages that we sent this first year were related to traffic. And we were actually really proud of that because, again, we went into this notion saying like, hey, we're going to lean really heavy on this. We want people to not opt out. We want people to think this is valuable. And actually, we were really excited when our annual employee engagement survey, the results came out, and employees mentioned this, and they said, "Hey, we love it. It was so nice being, in the loop and knowing if something was going to impact my commute." So that between the survey and focus groups that we've done with employees, they really enjoy that and they do appreciate. And even if it's only known as a traffic, platform, I'm happy with that because people will come up to us all the time. They're like, "Oh yeah, I got your text about the road. Okay, cool, thanks." So true enough, we did send a lot of text messages around that. There we go. So a couple other. Oops, sorry, I go too fast. Go. Well, I think so. Okay, so a couple other call outs just about our messages in general. So the platform itself on the back end as for us as administrators, it's actually really cool because it's got a lot of information. So it helps us make, more informed decisions. Or when someone, yells at me and says, "The CEO didn't get your text message," I can be like, "Actually, I sent it and it went to his landline." But we looked at our dashboard and said, okay, over the year, what are our themes? What are our trends? So first and foremost, the top messages of people responding. So that's probably like my favorite part of the platform is, people can text you back and we see what they say. Most of the time, it's pretty straightforward. Some weird responses every now and then. Weird responses, which Kim and we just laugh at. We're like, "Did you see what Maria said?" Like, geez Louise. I think, people think like it's not an actual human looking at responses, but anyways, so we could see how many people would respond back to a message. So some of our top messages that got either a lot of responses or just a lot of activity, you can see from the 5 over here, the majority of them were traffic related. So again, supported our hypothesis that, people appreciated that kind of message. We actually had one as well, the third one here, Happy Holidays from MGM Resorts. That was around the end of the year. It was, as Crystal mentioned, our CEO, Bill Hornbuckle, he sends out messages and videos to employees, always very highly engaged. Employees loves hearing from him and seeing him. So we actually sent a message out from him via text, and it was well received. And then another one, again, that I'm really proud of is the breaking company news. So we announced a transition of Delano Las Vegas to W Las Vegas. Again, some of the responses that we could see on the back end, the typical, text message, liked something or loved something, had a couple dislikes or, whatever, but majority of them were all positive. Some thank yous, some okays. And then another one I really wanted to address was C or gracias, because what was really cool about the platform is that regardless of if we send the message out in English, if your phone settings are set up in a different language, you'll receive it in that language. So we loved that ability as well. I think there's over 20 languages that it supports. So that was a big deal for us too, because we're also constantly trying to think about how to reach native English speakers. The last number I'll mention on here is opt-outs. So again, this was another thing that we were just so surprised about. And I was like, oh, I can keep my job. Okay, cool. For the whole year, we only had about 1,500 employees opt out. So that's about 2% of that 65,000. So we were thrilled with that because truly we didn't know if people, we'd send the first message and they'd go opt out and we'd be done with things. So again, it just really substantiated that people enjoy this and they appreciated it. Oh, there's mine. I was like, I had emojis. Okay. All right. So real quick, just to take you through a few firsts for us over this year. So as I mentioned, January 31st of 2024 is we sent our first text message out. And it was just strictly, hey, this is MGM Resorts. We have this new texting service. Stay tuned for more. And then about 2 weeks later, we actually sent a text message with content, and it was traffic related. That was strategic. We didn't want to go out with something and then again, people opt out. So traffic related. About middle of the year, we sent our first non-traffic related text message, which again was kind of important to us because we wanted to feel out how employees were going to receive the information. It was about one of our employee gyms on property opening. People loved it. We also sent kind of like real-time updates. So before that, we were strategic about our text messages. So we incorporated it into our communication plans. We said, this thing is happening on this date, so we'll plan towards it and we'll send a text message. So about, May-ish, we actually were doing it in real time. We would receive, we got a call from the chef in one of our employee dining rooms and said, hey, our hot food line is down. So if employees are coming on break and trying to eat, we don't have anything for them right now. So we sent that out pretty quickly because we knew employees would be mad if they had their one break and they couldn't have their food. So we actually sent a sequence that said, hey, Manja's not working right now. And then eventually one of our text messages said, hey, we're back up and running. And employees appreciated that as well. July, another really fun one for me is the first use of an emoji. That was like, it was really cool. It was kind of spur of the moment, honestly. It was a breaking company news. We were announcing something and I was like, this is very celebratory. So I was like, why don't we use an emoji? And we tested it. We sent text to ourselves. We were like, Android and Apple were like, hey, does it actually come through as an emoji? And they're like, yeah. So we sent it and it was fun because then people responded with emojis. So that was really fun as well. And then later in the year, again, we kind of branched out to different topics. We sent one for our HR team about open enrollment. We did one about cybersecurity. So different topics, just experimenting to see how people would react to them. And then also another really big deal for us is the Las Vegas Grand Prix as part of the Formula One racing series. If you're familiar with it, it closes down Las Vegas Boulevard and pretty much all the other streets. So it's a major, major traffic impact. This was 2024 was the second year of the race being in Las Vegas, but it was our first time having texting. So we went into it saying we're going to use text to provide those updates to employees, and our stakeholders and employees were very happy about that. Okay, I probably have like 30 seconds left. So with this whole year, you know, we have a lot of successes. We're really proud of ourselves, but there's always, like Crystal was saying, you always want to push yourself. You always want to reflect and say, okay, what can we do better? So kind of in the year ahead now, as we're strategic planning and thinking about how we can grow texting, some of our top opportunities would be regional utilization. Majority of our texts were about things happening in Las Vegas and Nevada. We did send a few that were relevant to our other jurisdictions, but that's something I'd like to partner with our regional communication teams and grow that so that those employees feel just as valued and connected and they're getting that same service. Also links. We were very, very strategic about not including a link in a text message in that first year, because as many of us know, we get inundated with text messages and smishing and phishing all the time. And again, we didn't want people to think this was MGM Resorts texting them and then opening up the floodgates of hacking. But I think now that people are familiar with it and comfortable with it, we can start to utilize links to some of our other platforms. Hey, this just happened. You can read more about it on Leo, or go to our intranet and you can sign up today or whatever. So I think that's another area of opportunity. And then custom fields. In the system itself, as I mentioned, it imports a lot of employee data, and the majority of our segmentation is by location and by management level. I think there's some other custom fields that we can explore, as we learned in the open enrollment text, that we can segment from employees that are covered by a collective bargaining agreement. So a union employee versus a non-union employee. So we had the ability to do that. So I'm sure there's other custom kind of filters and fields that we can identify to just further segment and target our audiences. So with that, that's all the time that Crystal and I had today. So thank you for your attention. And yeah, so I will say just one little note, because this is, okay. So our presentation at some point got moved up 30 minutes. So we were supposed to end around 9:40. So that's why it says 9:40. So it should have been like 10:10. But anyway, I'm in a room of communication professionals, so you all understand. But no, truly, thank you for your time today. Super excited for the rest of this conference. And I don't know if we have time for questions, but otherwise, we don't have time for questions. So just come hang out with us at some point, and thank you again.